Hello and welcome into the Starters 5 Questions podcast. I'm Dave Trentadue. That is Simon Tsalikis and George Caperis. How's it going, guys?
Here we go. I can assure everybody that's watching, we're all wearing pants. I thought that would be important to point out at first.
Well, speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Good.
All business up top, all right?
Yeah.
This is our 5 Question Starters podcast. You'll be able to find the episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, at the Starters 690. We've got a nice influx of subscribers and followers this past week, so thank you for that. And check out Simon and Joey Alfieri every weekend on TSN 690, Saturdays and Sundays, 7 to 9 a.m. Guys, you guys ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Let's roll. All right, so question number 1. Let's talk about this past weekend. The Bills. Oh, the Bills. Rod Francis's favorite team. They blew it. Wide right, dropped by the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. And now it just seems that everyone is either basking in their defeat or sympathizing with their fan base over the constant losing, right? So I just want to know, guys, where the heck do the Bills go from here?
Well, first of all, question number 1 brought to you by CDL there, Dave.
And, sorry. How can I forget?
Spotted at the Côte d'Ilias Sporting Club, Club Sportif Côte d'Ilias. Was the Grey Cup was in attendance on Saturday.
I saw that.
On Sunday. So not only is it the premier spot for tennis and pickleball indoor soccer facilities, but a stop along the way for the Grey Cup. Well done, Dave.
Had to be that's the perks of having Joey Alfieri on the roster, right? You know, you get to call in a favor here and there. But yeah, Grey Cup at the Club CDL. It was a great event. I think a lot of people were surprised and amazed. But yeah, that's the type of club CDL is. You never know what's going to happen there. Check them out, cdl.com.
So I don't look. I'm surprised. What are we? Tuesday night here. We're filming. What time is it? It's 9:51 Eastern Standard Time. I'm absolutely shocked that the coach is still employed by the Buffalo Bills. Like, we spent all of last week talking about, Mike McCarthy, being the coach of the Dallas Cowboys going forward. That guy's got 3 12-win seasons in a row. He's won a Super Bowl, and he has an inferior quarterback to Josh Allen, but that guy's job is in jeopardy. McDermott has a better quarterback. He's less proven than McCarthy, but it seems like he's content, or the Buffalo Bills are content with him being the quarterback going forward. They butchered everything down the stretch, just the play calling, the play selection, and that falls on Josh Allen as well, but that also falls on your head coach. 2nd and 9, Chiefs have timeouts. You need to move the sticks. You need to run the ball. You need for them to burn timeouts. You need to do something. Just sitting back there and having him throw the football and leaving your quarterback, your kicker with a 44-yarder, which in real NFL world is a chip shot in today's NFL, but not in that environment, not in that weather, and not with the 30-year history of the most unlucky or cursed franchise in all of North American sport. They can't take anything for granted. Guys, I swear to you, I was watching the game with 5 buddies. I looked at them and I said, and I was cheering for the Bills hard. I said, there is absolutely, positively no way that ball is going to split those 2 uprights. It simply wasn't going to happen because of the way they managed that football game. They scored 7 points early in the 3rd quarter and did nothing after that. No adjustments, no nothing. Spagnuolo got the better of them. And for McDermott too, like, you're supposed to be a defensive guru. And he's not. And he hasn't, and he wasn't. So you can't flip the roster. It's too difficult in the NFL with the salary cap and all that. Maybe Diggs might be gone, but I just don't know how you can come back and run this squad back again with this coach. It just doesn't make sense.
So, guys, watching that game, I drew parallels to those 4 Super Bowl teams that lost in the Super Bowl for sure. I think everybody did. But what left me perplexed were 2 things. And one, the fake punt, which is a fireable offense. I mean, I'm sorry, that's a fireable offense. You just can't do that, right? And somewhere in there also, Andy Reid's going to get away with one, because giving the ball to McCole Hardman on the 2-yard line when he hasn't touched the ball the whole game, when you have Isaiah Pacheco that's just basically running roughshod on everybody, and he fumbles outside the end zone, giving Buffalo a chance, which they shouldn't have even had a chance in that game because they were outplayed in that game, and they got a chance, and somehow the Buffalo Bills found a way to lose. But more concerning than that, I think, is not only the DNA of the team, but the construct of the team, Simon. You look at that team in the trenches, they're not good. That's not a good team in the trenches. And if you take Josh Allen away from that team, I don't even think they're a playoff team, to be quite honest with you. The run game is subpar. Defensively, yeah, they're missing some pieces. Matt Milano's been out since week 7. He's a big piece of that defense. Von Miller didn't play very much. But, I mean, they just don't have the pass rush. They don't have the guys to go up against a team like Kansas City and beat them. Because I think this week, of all the weeks, was the week where the Bills were trending in the right. Look at it. They're at home, right? The weather, the inclement weather plays into Buffalo's hands. They're coming off a win streak. They've been a hot team. Josh Allen's playing with confidence. McDermott seems to have a hold of the team, and yet somehow, some way, they lose this game, and all we're talking about is a fake punt and wide right. Wide right once again. And it is a painful reminder of almost 30 years ago where, once again, it was wide right.
They didn't give up a sack. They didn't turn over the football. They had 27 first downs. They controlled the clock, and they lost the football game. That's hard to do. It's hard to do. And on the flip side, that defense, I believe in every one of the playoff games against Patrick Mahomes, has yet to sack.
You have to sack him.
It's crazy. So I don't know where they go from there. They're lucky that they have a franchise quarterback. I do believe in that. But there's going to have to be some changes at some point with that squad. And you just, I don't know how you run back the same squad and the same coach.
Yeah, you got to feel bad for those Buffalo fans, but at least we have some good football coming up this weekend. So I'm pumped for that, to say the least.
I'm sure you are.
All right. Question number 2. We'll go to question number 2. Also brought to you by Club CDL. They have a January promotion for fitness. So if you want to join up they have a big 2-story gym, very spacious. They have, a world-class fitness director there. So who's trains the likes of Jeannie Bouchard and all sorts of big names in the tennis world. So if you want to sign up, check them out, clubcdl.com. They have a 25% off for their fitness memberships for the month of January. All right, so question number 2, we'll go to the association, where Joel Embiid dropped 70 points last night against the San Antonio Spurs. We know Kobe put up 81 against the Raptors a while back, and to be fair, Damian Lillard and Donovan Mitchell both did it last year, I believe, 70 points.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's getting there. It's getting there, right? So my question is, it's a fun question for you guys. Will we be alive to see the day where an NBA player scores 100 points?
There can only be one answer here, Dave.
Ooh.
And that answer is yes.
Oh,
I think it will happen.
like it.
And the reason I think it will happen, scoring is up, and we're seeing things that we've never seen before in basketball, where a 7-foot, 12 guy with limbs that looks like an extraterrestrial can shoot threes, okay? This, to me, alone, is a sign that things are a-changing in the NBA. And I think Wembanyama is just the beginning. I believe there'll be another freak that'll come down the line. It might take 5 years. It might take 10 years, but it's going to happen. And somebody is going to pop 100 because teams are scoring more and more. If a guy like Damian Lillard can score 60 points, I get the feeling that there's going to be the next guy, and it might be Wembanyama for all I know, because he just needs to fill out. And who's going to stop this guy? He's virtually unstoppable right now. So, is it going to be him? Probably not, but somebody's going to do it. There's going to be a game where a team scores 140 points, and they keep feeding the rock to the guy, and it's a blowout, and he's going to get the 100 points. It's going to happen. Is it going to happen today? Probably not. Is it going to happen this year? Probably not. 10, 20 years? Yeah, I'll take that bet. I think it will happen.
Look, you got to think it's going to happen, considering that, you look at what Wilt did when he got 100 or Kobe. And I remember specifically watching the Kobe game just because it was on the Raptors. I believe it was a Sunday night. And being a Laker fan, I just tuned into that game. It was on the national broadcaster. So the rules in the NBA have changed. You know, when Kobe took a shot and he missed and you got a rebound, you got a whole new 24 seconds to deal with that. Same thing with, I would imagine there's the same thing with Wilt. But now the NBA, you get an offensive rebound, the shot clock resets to 14. So that's why we're seeing a lot of scoring. That's why we're seeing so many extra possessions. And like George said, it's a freakish athlete that we have. We have guys that can pound it inside. And Karl-Anthony Towns lost in all this yesterday. He had 48 points at the half. He was on pace for 96. So he was on pace to blow Embiid out of the water, and then Embiid basketball game tipped off like 30 minutes prior to Karl-Anthony Towns' game. So he had 48 at the half. And you look at these guys that go to the line. I think Embiid was something like 12 for 12. I think Towns was like 10 for 10 from the free throw line. But I'll tell you this, and I specifically remember it when Kobe did it. And Kobe was absolutely brilliant in the second half of that game against the Raptors. I think the Raptors were up at like 15 or 16 points. He outscored the Raptors himself in the second half. But Embiid put up 70, and Kobe put up 81. That's 19 and 30 from Wilt's record. That is a half of basketball. If you're a good basketball player, you score 19 points every half, you're going to break LeBron's record all-time scoring eventually. That's a 38-point game. So no matter how great Embiid was, he was still 31 points off breaking the record. He's averaging 31 points a night. So he needed one more Embiid game to get to. He's a game off 100. He's not, 10 points or 9 points. He's an entire great Embiid game from getting to 100. It's going to happen. I'm hoping it happens in my lifetime so I can be around to see it. But it's going to take something ridiculously special because Kobe was off by 19. That takes a long time to score 19 points.
However, if you remember that game, I mean, he struggled a little bit in the first half, right? I mean, he didn't have
he had 30-something.
Yeah.
Something.
But I think he missed like 7 shots. I'm just saying it's gonna happen at some point. We see it in all sports, right? We see it now. We never thought anybody would catch Gretzky, and now Ovechkin's on the doorstep. So I just get the feeling it'll happen.
All right, I'd love to see it. I mean, 100 points would be fantastic to see.
Anthony Towns had 48 at the half. I think that lost in all this. That's a ridiculous.
That's a crazy stat.
That's true. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, let's move on to question number 3, and this one brought to you by EA Fitness, having a massive promotion in the month of January to kickstart 2024, where you can get 50% off memberships. They also have a Transform Your Body and Transform Your Family promotion going on, where you can choose a package for the entire family, 2, 3, 4 people, which is pretty cool. Check them out at eafitness.inc on Instagram. All right, so it's Saturday afternoon. I'm getting ready to watch the Ravens play the Texans. Hockey's not on my mind whatsoever, and all of a sudden I get an alert on my phone, and out of nowhere, Patrick Roy has been named head coach for the New York Islanders. And to me, very, very out of the blue. I didn't see this opportunity coming. So I kind of just want to get your take on it. He's has since gone on. He's won his debut game. How do the Islanders hiring Patrick Roy as their head coach make you feel as a Habs fan?
I don't care. I'm not one. Patrick Roy is the greatest goaltender I've ever seen in my life. He's on my Mount Rushmore easily of Canadians, and he's on the Mount Rushmore of badass NHL players for the swag, the level of clutchness, the wink, and everything else he's done. But to me, the coach has never resonated with me. I know he's been very successful in the Q, and all I hear is about the last year's Memorial Cup. That team was not to be touched. That team was not to be messed with. And from that standpoint, I get it. But I don't know if his name, like I mentioned it today, I was on with Melnick, and I said, if his name was Roy Patrick, and he had spent the last 6-7 years out of the National Hockey League, but he did have a Memorial Cup to show for it. And then in his 3 years in the National Hockey League, in his first year, they go to 54 wins, I think, or something ridiculous. But they get bounced in the first round, miss the playoffs the year after, miss the playoffs the year after. And then for whatever else, I don't know, I'm not privy to that information, but in late August, he walks away from his hockey team. I don't know what happened. I know nothing about what happened. I don't know anybody in Colorado. My nephew now lives in Colorado, and he just moved there 6 months ago. So I know nothing about the Avalanche, okay? I do know some things. I know that Joe Sakic is one of the good guys in this league. Very well respected, very well liked. I'm not saying that he's not to blame here because, again, I'm not privy to that information. But that's the track record. A first-round bounce, a missed playoffs, walked away from his team in August, 6 years out of the National Hockey League, wins a Memorial Cup, and he's back. I'm cheering for the guy because he's an all-time great and he's an all-time Hab for me. But I just don't know. How can we say this is a great hiring? We're just going on because it's St. Patrick. If the Leafs did this, come on, if the Leafs hired a guy that just won the Ontario Hockey League, won Memorial Cup, was 6 years out of hockey, and his last 2 years in the NHL, he missed the playoffs, and in the third year he quit on his team. Habs Nation would be having a field. If Curtis Joseph went down that road, Habs Nation would be having a field day with this hiring. I'm cheering for the guy, but I have no idea if this is going to work. Zero. Nobody has any idea if this is going to work. And if anything, it's skewed for it not to work. That's the reality. We're just going on brand and name recognition here. That's all.
So I'm going to take the complete opposite here. I mean, it not only resonates with me, I mean, it gets me fired up to watch some Islanders-Canadiens games because
you watch the Islanders and Canadiens anyways.
Yeah, but I'm going to watch with more interest now. As much as the former coach Lane Lambert interested me in his offensive and defensive plays and ways, Patrick Waugh resonates with me in a way that no other player resonates with me, and probably people of my young age group and Simon's young age group. There's no other player that with that franchise that resonates more, right? Because he's the catalyst for the last two Stanley Cups that this city won. So I'm a huge fan in that aspect. As a coach, I'm going to disagree again with Simon because I think I would be excited if I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs and I hired a guy that has a proven track record, whether it be in juniors or not. The guy won, and he was coach of the year his first year. So don't just kind of steamroll over that.
Man,
I get that, but
hey, Bill, hey George, how did it work out after he left Colorado?
I get that, but here's the thing: the one thing about Patrick Waugh and maybe
they were better is the answer I was looking for. They were better.
I get it, but if we take a look at Patrick Waugh's track record as a human being here, okay, I think he's one of those athletes that puts winning above everything, okay, to a fault. And it's been his fault since he was a player and he got showed up one night against the Detroit Red Wings, and it had to mean the end of him playing here in Montreal. And probably that's what led to his dismissal and player personnel moves and trying to get the guys he wanted and what he felt he needed to win. Now, I can't blame a guy in professional sports that's trying to win because that's what I want to see. The only thing I care about as a fan at the end of the day is I want to win. And that's what he brings to the table. He has a winner's mentality. You can't find that in a lot of coaches. You can't find a coach that's willing. No. And Simon, I'm telling you, I don't believe.
For 9 and 10-year-olds, is this going to be streamed at elementary schools about telling me about he wants to win? Can you name me off the top of your head coaches who don't want to win?
No, that's not what I mean, though. I think you're missing the point. I think all coaches want to win, but the difference is Patrick Waugh. I believe
George Caperis is doing this answer. That's what this is. This is 14-year-old George Caperis.
No. Because I'll tell you my point of view on it.
Put the 33 sweater in the back. Take the Munoz down, or show us where the Patrick Waugh is.
I will take my fanboy and I will wear it proudly. But I'm gonna say where it comes from, okay? And I think he gets criticized because of the way he left Colorado. But the reason he left Colorado like that, Simon, is because he wants to win. And he was ready to walk away from a situation where he felt he couldn't win, where the GM wasn't giving him the tools to win. And for me, that's somebody I want coaching my team. That's the way I see it. And you know what? Time will tell. Time will tell.
When he left and the new guy took over, it went well for the Avalanche.
They also got a couple of good players.
Okay,
because
but
you can't. There's a whole thing about
he didn't, as Bill Parcells would say, he didn't get to. He did the grocery shopping and he wanted to do the cooking, right? The old Bill Parcells line in Patriots. So he didn't get Radulov, and that was the right move. Radulov had one good year in Montreal. It kind of seems like they lost to Montreal with Radulov, and then Radulov went on to Dallas, absolutely sucked and left the NHL.
He had a couple of good years in Dallas. That isn't true.
He did not have a couple of good years. That is non-factual. He did not have a couple of good years. So he didn't get the opportunity. But okay, George, he walked out on his team in August. If he wasn't the only reason of like the existence that I got to witness 2 Stanley Cups, unless for the ones in the 70s that I remember, but I couldn't break down hockey, nor can I attend a game at a bar, or nor can I attend the parades. He is the biggest figure in pretty much my lifetime as a Montreal Canadian. Remove that. That has nothing to do with this conversation. It has nothing to do with Dave's question. Keep it on the surface of what he's done. He's won a Memorial Cup. Great. Jim Harbaugh is going to be an NFL coach. It took him like 3 trips to the Final Four. It took him finally a championship. He had to beat Ohio State 3 years in a row before he got his job. So I don't know.
I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to tell you a couple of inaccuracies with the Dallas Stars. He had 2 72-point seasons, Radulov, which I think are pretty decent seasons, especially he played 70 games in that one season. So I don't agree with you. Radulov wasn't good. Secondly, I'm going to disagree.
He had a 4 or 5 year deal for like 7.
5-year deal. Yeah, a 6-year deal, I believe.
Two of the 5 years were good.
But I said 2 years. I said he had 2 good years. That's what I said. And you said he didn't have any good years. But he did have 2 good years.
I remember the first year. I don't remember the second year.
But secondly, I think further than that, I think you're looking at it at just a plain surface. I'm looking at it as there's a lot of intangibles in sports. And I believe Patrick Waugh, the intangible he has, is that he's able to get these feelings from us, like what we're doing right now, where he can go and get people passionate about stuff. Just like you're arguing one side and I'm arguing the other side, Patrick Waugh can do that. And if he can do it to 2 guys that are not in the locker room, trust me, he can do it to guys that are in the locker room. And time will tell, Simon.
Well, time will tell, of course. But again, if the name wasn't Patrick Waugh, would Dave Trentadue be doing the graphics on the bottom here, talking about a hiring for the New York Islanders, their new head coach? If the name was simply not Patrick Waugh, would we be having question number 3 brought to you by who? By EA Fitness on our 5 Questions Starters podcast? Would it be a question today? The answer is no, because when you would have texted me our ideas for questions and you would have said, hey, bro, they just hired Luke Bryan to be the new head coach of the New York Islanders. You want to break that down on Tuesday night? I'd be, George, are you drunk? We're not talking about this guy. So that's what it is. It's brand recognition. It's name recognition. I hope it works out.
I think it goes further than that. I think he's one of those players that's polarizing. I think he's not only a player, he's just a human being that's polarizing. And I think that's why it's going to work, because he is polarizing. And there's not enough of these guys in the NHL.
George, name me polarizing ex-players who have worked as coaches.
I can't.
Next
question. I can name one, though. I can name one. Patrick Waugh.
He wasn't successful.
He won a Coach of the Year. We're going to disagree again.
Well, Mike Ditka won a Super Bowl. You didn't bring up his name.
All right. Speaking of graphics, this is the only Islanders logo that I acknowledge, by the way. This is the best Islanders logo.
I love that logo, by the way. Fisherman logo is the way to go.
Just quickly, I want to get off this topic, but just quickly, do you think it is in the Canadians' best interest, for the future, that Patrick Waugh does well? Just in the sense that it'd be another name in the pool of coaches that could be hireable.
Absolutely, I think so. Yeah,
I think it's great if it works out. If he becomes a very good coach and they start to win in New York, and then somewhere down the lines you're looking for a coach and he's got a more proven track record, then I'm totally for it. But I'm not like the team is about to miss the playoffs. Like I'm not into just like I'm into getting better, and it doesn't mean like the connection to the old Canadians. Like he's gonna have to prove himself like anybody else. Like if the Canadians would have fired Martin St. Louis yesterday, and hired Patrick Waugh today, I'd be losing my mind.
I'd have no problem with it. Zero problem with it.
Whoa.
None.
Wow.
Zero.
All right. Well, okay, that's a great statement. All right, let's move on to question number 4, brought to you by Fresh MTL, located in Gold's Gym in Laval, and their food is healthy, looks delicious. They look great on Instagram at Fresh MTL. Simon, what'd you get there this week?
Today I was there. I had a shake.
Okay.
I want to check the score of the see if the Islanders won tonight.
They lost 3-2.
Yeah.
They lost 3-2.
Yeah.
But what I had today, I had the Cajun steak. I took a meal home, and I went with the shrimp, Dave, for a lunch tomorrow.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes, you go into the Gold's Gym in St. Dorothy in Laval, and you walk in on your right. You don't have to be a member to the gym to have access to Fresh MTL, and it's perfect for guys like me who just need to clean up a little bit of their eating habits or much of their eating habits. And as I say, it keeps me out of the drive-throughs, and I had a shake today. Had a morning booster, Dave. Morning
Nice.
booster.
That's why you're so energetic still.
Yes.
Did you go vanilla or chocolate there, Simon?
Sorry?
Did you go vanilla or chocolate on the shake?
No, it was berries. It was,
berries. Very nice.
It was
Okay.
berry-based.
All right. I didn't see that coming.
Very, very nice. They're on Uber Eats as well, so you could check them out if you're in the area there. All right, let's talk some Habs here. They've made a flurry of roster moves today. Nothing too exciting, but they did call up Arber Xhekaj. Now, Xhekaj is a popular topic among Habs fans these days. Some absolutely love him, and they see it. They absolutely want him on the team, and don't think at all that he belongs in Laval. But some see his ceiling, and they are a little bit more realistic. I just want to see where you guys land on this one. Is Arber Xhekaj a part of this team going forward?
Well, look, I think he's earned the right to be on the team. I mean, he was sent down, didn't say a word, went down, produced. I think he worked on aspects of his game to be a better NHLer. The proof will be in the pudding, obviously, when he gets to play maybe 10, 15 games and log some ice time. But I don't know what the ceiling is, and that's the scary part with Xhekaj. We just don't know, is this as high as he's going to go, or is there more to his game? Can there be another aspect of his game that improves, that allows him to be a successful NHLer in the top 6 on defense? And I think the book is kind of out on him being a top 4. I don't think that's possible, but a guy that can play, 15, 17 minutes on that third pairing and bring a physicality, bring that quote unquote enforcer role in 2024, but not the traditional enforcer where the guy can't play hockey, but can actually log 15 minutes and maybe chip in a point or two every now and again. I think that's a possible thing here for Xhekaj. And I tell you right now, and I think Simon will agree with this, if they put Xhekaj on the trade market, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of interest. There's going to be a ton of interest because those type of players, every team needs them. Every team needs a guy that can keep the other team in check. And that's one thing that Xhekaj can do. However, is that enough to stay in the NHL? It's not. So unless he's worked on his defensive game, his breakouts are a little bit more crisp, and he's just more defensively responsible and aware, it might be difficult. But I think the jury is out on that. We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, look, I don't know if he's part of the core going forward forever there, but I think that what I've liked about him is that he went back to Laval. The first couple of games were a little bit of a struggle, but then he became Laval's. I think the one game that I watched every minute of, and there's a couple of games I caught a little bit on the radio. And just listening to like Campbell and whether it was with John Goins or Mitch Gallo, their breakdown of games got better as he got to the Laval Rocket, and he started to make his presence felt. Didn't seem like he wanted to be that guy that just went to the American Hockey League and fought and beat people up. Did it a couple of times, but more he was almost provoked into those scraps more than anything else. Look, Barron, Harris, Struble. They seem to, a lot of them, like Logan Mailloux, a little bit of the same set, right? Lane Hudson might be a little bit more special than those guys. So what does Xhekaj have that the other guys don't have? Well, he has that X factor, that physicality that they lack on that blue line. I think with Savard, he's a relatively tough player. You throw Gouli in the mix, and then you could throw in a Xhekaj, that's nice. That means there's a lot of sandpaper out there. So is he going to be penciled in to the starting 6 every game? I don't know if he's got that game in him. Might be a little bit of a tweener, but I agree with George. If somebody makes him available, somebody's going to grab this guy. He's an NHLer. At the beginning when he went down to Laval, I didn't think he was. But from everything that I've seen and everything that I've read, he's worked on being better because he just can't come up to Montreal and beat people up. It's not going to keep you in the NHL. You can't have 5 defensemen and one guy that's just out there, a physical presence, beating people up. You have to be able to play in your own end of the rink or you're going to get exposed. And I think he's gotten better at that. And I think there's an element there that he does things that his teammates simply can't do. So he might get a good run here with the Canadiens, at least to finish off the season.
All right. And our final question, quickly brought to you by Resto Vivaldi. Best bring your own wine restaurant in Montreal, located on West Island, 13071 Boulevard going west. Follow them at Resto Vivaldi on Instagram. They're awesome. Tell Steve and Dave that these starters sent you. Very simple question, boys. Who is the Habs MVP so far this season?
I'll say Nick Suzuki. I think, look, there's games that there's a lull and there might be stretches where he doesn't get points, but I don't think we take enough time to appreciate the heavy lifting he does. You know, even if you go back to last year, like I remember there was a stretch last year where he had the Bergeron matchup, then the Point matchup, then the Matthews matchup, and then the Barkov-Tkachuk matchup. That was like a stretch of like 4 games in a stretch of 7. That's who he had to hound, and that's who was hounding him. And not just that, but he also gets Hedman matched up against him. He gets the McAvoy matchup against him. He gets the Riley matchup against him. And he's not running out there with guys that are point-of-game players on his line either. Like Cole Caulfield's still trying to find his way in the National Hockey League. So I think he just does an incredible amount of heavy lifting, and the fact that he's just hovering around just below that point of game mark, I think it's pretty impressive. You look at the best teams in this league, you look at the above average teams in this league, there's a center and there's somebody riding shotgun right behind him. He doesn't have that. He doesn't, I like Sean Monahan and everything, but I don't know if he's a second line center that's going to attract the other teams. Like there's no shift where, the Leafs say, okay, Matthews, get off Suzuki. We got to get you we got to get Monahan in check there. We got to get Monahan. Like there isn't a shift that the other team's top pairing is out there going after Monahan. It isn't. It's a good player. I like him, but they're focused and they're geared to shut down pretty much one guy, and he's getting by. And I know there's games there that perhaps he may be a no-show, but man, I don't know if there's another center in the NHL that gets more heavy minutes and heavy lifting than Nick Suzuki does.
So the question is, down to 3 players, right? I mean, you got to look at it. It's basically Suzuki, Montembeault, and Matheson, because they're the guys that have really been the biggest catalysts for whatever the Montreal Canadiens are in 2024. The problem I have is when you look at Nick Suzuki, absolutely, he's in matchup hell, right? Because he's the de facto number 1 center. He draws the most difficult assignment every night. However, he's a minus 16. He's got 12 goals after 46 games. And I know stats don't say everything, especially not plus minus. And we just alluded to the reasons why he is. I think it's just part of a bigger issue that the Montreal Canadiens have, that there's 3 guys right now after 46 games that are in double digits in goals. So Nick Suzuki wins because there's no one else. Because Mike Matheson right now is a minus 14. I can't give it to him. And Montembeault, despite his .903 save percentage and his .311 goals against, I feel it wouldn't be fair. So Nick Suzuki wins it, but it's tough when you look at it, Simon. I just think this version of the Montreal Canadiens, for all the good stuff they do and all the growing that they've done, and we're kind of seeing it before our eyes, the fact remains there's not a lot of talent on this roster, right? And Nick Suzuki is maybe the one bright spot that we see, but how bright is really that spot? That's the question I ask myself. Is Nick Suzuki going to be the guy we talk about next year and the year after as the MVP of the team, or is Nick Suzuki just, the best of the rest? And for now, I think the answer is he's the best of the rest. Unfortunately, it's tough because he does play against the best players on the other team. He's logging way too many minutes. There's a lot on his shoulders. I think he's the offensive catalyst for that line right now. So my answer is Nick Suzuki because I don't got anyone else.
All right. Fair enough. That wraps up this episode of the Starters Podcast. Thank you all for watching. Don't hesitate to like and subscribe, please, and share with your friends. Tell your friends about us. Leave us a comment. Answer the questions below. Find us everywhere at the Starters 690. Thanks, guys.
Dave, are your Ravens going to win on Sunday?
Of course, no doubt about it.
Of course, okay.
Sorry, Taylor Swift. It's over.
That's it. Done deal.
Done deal in Baltimore. Come on, book it.
All right, Dave.
Let's see it.
Talk to you next week. Ciao, boys.
Sounds good.
Ciao, guys.
Bye.